Winston is there now. Let's go to Winston Peters. Let's not mess around. Straight
Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you loud and clear, Winston.
Excellent. Hello.
Well, that's interesting. Big Parliament, and you've got to be in for the centre-right to govern. Boy, it took a while for those cards to be played. What's your priority now, Winston? What happens next as far as you're concerned?
Well, it shouldn't have taken that long for the cards to be played or known.
Yeah.
We knew this on election night. That's why we kept our mouth shut and just thought we'd wait.
Yep.
Until our mathematical decline in our country gets addressed, first by them understanding the election results and by our changing education system.
I hear you. Okay, but they're in now. They're on the table, and as I said, you are a player. A government cannot be formed on the centre-right without New Zealand First, with what's going to be a 123-seat parliament. So what is on the agenda next?
I think the facts are that we've got to go ahead in confidence, so to speak, to get confidence out of the country and also in the process. And that means that we have to treat it with urgency and deal with the negotiations as fast as we possibly can, whilst not being foolish about it. Less haste, more speed, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have, and I know you've been talking to Chris Luxon, some speculation about the relationship with ACT. Do you appreciate now, Winston, that for this to work in the interests of the country, you're going to have some sort of workable relationship with ACT as well if you're going to be in the same coalition government that they are?
Well, look, I didn't rule anybody out in this campaign.
You certainly did not.
And look, let's not forget what happened here. I just ruled out the Labour Party and those who have a racist agenda.
Yeah.
It was clear as daylight, but in all other respects, our job was to stop that massive pathway towards apartheid, and they're still arguing about it, and they're still talking about it. But on the other score, I would understand and hope that they realise the situation they're in. They might even call it a predicament. That's not the way we're going to go forward. To go forward, you've got to say, well, what can we agree on? What can we put aside, because we can't all get what we want? And in the major sense, we have to get a sound, much, much, much better government underway.
It strikes me, and a lot of people have written, there's actually quite a lot of common ground in a philosophical sense between you and ACT on some issues. There are a number of things, Winston, you're not a million miles apart on, are you?
Well, no, when I wrote the speech in the first place, no.
Yeah. And in fact, I was speculating this morning, there are some issues where New Zealand First and ACT together might give actually Chris Luxon a bit more backbone than he's often displayed in his political career. You guys together could really be agents of change.
Well, when you say agents of change, what we had being foisted upon us was unmandated, unelected, uncampaigned on change from the other side. Just rammed down our throats with every change day in, day out, right across the whole spectrum, where most of the people didn't know what 99% was going on, including a whole lot of people in politics didn't know just how widespread it was. So we have to address that. And frankly, we've got a cause to unite on this matter. And we've got to put our differences aside, and that's the nature of politics.
Yeah, we've got to put our differences aside. When would you expect to be talking to Luxon and holding meetings this weekend, I presume?
I was speaking to him at 2:02.
You were speaking to him at 2:02. Okay. All right. The ball's afoot. When would you expect? And I want to ask you again, and I realise these are delicate times and negotiations, and this is, a time for diplomacy and cool heads. When would you expect to have some sort of conversation with David Seymour or with the ACT people?
Well, that might be important. I think the most important thing is to have a conversation with all three, or to say
all three getting together in a room. Okay.
Because, at the end of the day, that's how things will be conducted.
All right.
So, let's sort out what we agree on for a start, and there's a lot of things we do agree on.
Yeah.
Then let's also be open to the fact that there's information that none of us have got, and we need to have it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And that can be expedited in a matter of days, really.
Yeah. do you think, and you were optimistic when we spoke on Monday, that you say this could happen a lot more quickly, or we could get a functional government relatively quickly. Would it be unreasonable for the country to think that next week, by Friday of next week, we'd have something workable, we'd have the broad sweep of this figured out? Would that be your expectation or your hope?
Well, the trouble with Sean is when you make any comment these days, if it's made in good faith, it is used against you. No good thing.
Well, I'm asking you in good faith, to be honest.
But what I'm trying to say to you is when I made that statement, I think it was on your show, I made that statement.
Yeah.
I meant it. And I think we can do this much more quickly than people think. And, this is not my first negotiation. But I'm only negotiating with one side, so to speak, not two. And that's why we can expedite this.
Okay, so all three of you need to get in a room, as it were, figuratively speaking, to make good progress.
Well, you might say that, but, frankly, if our chiefs of staff got in a room and sorted it out, of course, there's a matter of logistics. And we've still got to keep on doing other work. So basically, I've said to Chris Luxon, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I said to him, look, the key thing is that if your main man speaks to my main person, or main person speaks to my main person, so that every hour things are happening, then we can expedite this. But if we've got to move personally and all the travel and everything else, this won't work.
Yeah. Okay, so you're on board with National. You want to have an act's got to be involved in this in some way. All right, and I think, look, there's a real problem here. The media then speculate and can get in the middle of things and stuff things up.
That's a tragedy of law. That's the tragedy of law, because all they're doing out there is misinforming everybody after the election, like their mainstream media were doing before the election. And I'm not engaging in that. I'm talking to you because you're asking frank and open questions that need to be answered. But those think that they're going to gaslight us or have a gotcha moment, they're just wasting their time when it comes to Winston Peters and New Zealand First.